Major automobile manufacturers, Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai, have doubled down on FCEVs. The question is, what is their motivation? Proponents of FCEVs claim that the tech is simply better and that battery electric vehicles are somehow less competent than an FCEV. Opponents argue that the level of complexity and the requisite demand for entirely new fueling infrastructure offset current FCEV advantages in range and charging time. More than a few vocal opponents suggest that, in the short term at least, FCEVs are compliance cars designed to meet California minimum sales requirements and nothing more. The California car market is huge, and every automotive manufacturer wants unfettered access to that market. Under the California Zero Emission Vehicles regulations, manufacturers get credits for plug-in vehicles as well as zero-emission vehicles. They can use those credits to offset the sales of less efficient ICE vehicles, thereby ensuring full access to the California market. Stated simply, if you sell enough zero-emission and plug-in vehicles to meet regulatory requirements, even if you lose money on each, you can then sell many more low mile-per-gallon vehicles like SUVs and pickup trucks, which are in high demand and are very profitable. The question is this claim legitimate? Hard to say with assurance, but one indicator is that FCEVs will be rolled out only in Western states in the short term. Battery electric vehicle proponents argue that the well-to-wheel environmental costs for FCEVs are substantially greater than the costs for BEVs. These costs include the energy expended on hydrogen production and refining, the energy expended on transportation from the production facility to the fueling station, and the energy expended on hydrogen storage. In general, there are considerably fewer extraction, refining, transportation, and production costs associated with grid-based power, making its environmental costs lower than the current cost for delivering hydrogen to the end user. Still, another criticism of FCEVs is safety. If hydrogen leaks from its tank and meets with air, any spark ignites a full explosion. To ensure safety, significant regulation of fueling stations and FCEVs themselves must be implemented. As a consequence of the ongoing debate, and as a method for generating additional information for those who want to understand the debate in depth, greencarreports.com developed 10 questions for FCEV manufacturers, addressing the comparison of FCEVs with BEVs, infrastructure and energy issues, and projected sales for FCEVs. The website published responses from the California Fuel Cell Partnership along with Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai. For a complete discussion, which is well worth reading if you have the appropriate interest, refer to the link shown on your screen. We'll briefly present a few sample questions and provide the Green Car Report take on some of the answers from the manufacturers. Here's a sample question from the EV comparison section. The main advantage of hydrogen vehicles is that they can refuel for 300 miles in less than 10 minutes. If an affordable battery electric car in 2020 offers 250 miles of range and can recharge to say 80% in say 12 to 15 minutes, then how much of an advantage will hydrogen fuel cell cars retain? Green Car Report summarizes the automotive manufacturer's responses to that question with the following comment. Saying that you can't compare today's fuel cell cars to hypothetical future electric cars is fair, certainly. but none of the 4 respondents actually answered the question we posed. If future DC fast charging brings refueling time for battery electric cars closer to that of hydrogen vehicles, is there still advantage? In analyzing the responses more fully, Green Car Report states, fuel cell manufacturers thus seem to be saying, to one degree or another, that we may see a split among zero-emission vehicles, battery electrics in the smaller segments, hydrogen power for larger light trucks that American buyers like so much. That may in fact come to pass, we'll see. This sample question from the category Infrastructure and Energy. The well-to-wheels footprint of a hydrogen-fueled vehicle appears to be generally worse than that of an electric car. That appears to imply that among the broad range of zero-emission vehicles, hydrogen vehicles have a higher carbon footprint than electric cars. How do you overcome this? Green Car Reports summarize the automotive manufacturers' responses with the following comment. Hydrogen vehicles can be as low carbon as battery electric vehicles under some circumstances. And it appears that a few thousand that will appear on the roads in Southern California within the next 2 or 3 years may well hit that mark, as they will be in some other locations, including Germany. To make that the case, however, requires that the hydrogen fuel be produced using a far higher proportion of renewable energy than is used in the average grid mix anywhere in the United States. The manufacturers were then asked about sales going forward, a sample question. Will your hydrogen fuel cell car be delivered in numbers any greater than the minimum required by the California Air Resource Board's ZEV rules? The implication of the question is to determine if FCEVs are compliance cars only. Green Car Reports goes on to note that by 2020, BEVs and PHEVs are expected to be about 1% of global auto production, or about 1 million vehicles per year. The follow-on question for manufacturers is, when will FCEVs be a significant part of the electric vehicle mix? The manufacturer responses to those questions do not appear to be answered directly, so we really can't know at this point. The success of the FCEV will, like many things, be determined by the investment made in R&D by automotive manufacturers and in the fueling infrastructure that must be built by third parties. It may very well be that FCEVs may become an important option for large vehicles, for example, light trucks and SUVs, but not a significant player for smaller vehicles. The environmental costs for production, refining, transportation, and storage must be reduced if FCEVs are to become a viable alternative to BEVs and PHEVs.